Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a great show for you today. I always say that I know, but we really do. And this show is going to mean something to a lot of people because of the subject matter that we're going to cover. And part of it is that our guest today is a rugby player and a coach and a cybersecurity sales guy and a cryptocurrency entrepreneur, a stonemason and a painter and a writer. He's got a new book coming out, and we're going to talk about that. And but first, I have to introduce my co-host, who is always lately. He's always been with me, and I think I've hook swaggled him into doing this on a regular basis. John, how are you, John Bernedoodle?
Hey, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, Kevin, and a beautiful day in the world. And it's always a beautiful day. You just got to look for it.
You do. And sometimes it's harder to find than other times. But today we're talking to a young gentleman that has a lot to say and on a lot of different subjects. I don't know that we're going to talk about being a stonemason. That's kind of a visual thing, but we're going to talk.
I tell you, his list of things that he's done makes me feel like a slacker.
Oh, boy, no kidding. I feel like I ain't done nothing. But I don't know that
he's properly named. That's for sure.
Have you ever tried painting, John? Do you paint?
I do.
I tried. I can't.
Well, I do. I'm not good at it, but I didn't say I was good at it. I just said I do it. I used to be better at drawing than I was in painting, but I actually evolved from the flat surface to I build models and I build and paint models and that kind of stuff. So
that's right. One of these days, John, we're gonna have to do a show about your passion and your other passion and your house and all the things that you collect and stuff. But
it's a little weird, but yes, I actually love the arts of all forms because I think we learn so much from them, and I actually would love to learn about stonemasonry too. So but let's bring him on. I mean, like I said, he's appropriately named. His name is Tyler Kania, as compared to Kania, because he's proven that he can do anything. So let's bring on Tyler Kania.
And he was a rugby player of note.
Yes.
He is now down with an injury. If you don't know what a patellar tendon is, it's something that hurts like a son of a gun, and it's also really rare to tear your patella tendon. So he is a lucky guy, and we're going to ask him if he's ever gone and gone to the lotto, because he had both knees have that happen too. So he belongs to the world in a very special place. Tyler, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to join you guys.
We're excited to have you here. This is going to be a fun episode. It's also going to be highly educational, because there's some things that have gone on in your life that we're going to talk about, and it directly ties into the book that you've written, which is
The Maniac with No Knees.
Because of the patella tendon problems, but you are not going to give up your career as a rugby player, and I admire you for that, because my son played rugby, and that is a brutal sport.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little less brutal when you play the fly half position. It's kind of like quarterback, I guess. But I guess if you look at my knees, you'd say, well, you don't really play a position that stays out of trouble too much. Yeah, I did find that, having bipolar and everything like that, I've found that like having a community to belong to no matter what your ambitions might be, is really important to just living a healthy life.
Well, Tyler, I have to ask you, because there are people in our audience that are not really all that familiar with rugby. And so one of the questions I'm sure they're asking is, okay, Tyler, what happens in those scrum?
A scrum is one of the rare phenomenon in sports where you can't really beat, mass and force. You have 8 forwards against 8 forwards, and they're contesting possession of the ball. And they do that by pushing each other and locking shoulders and locking necks. And, you see a lot of the big cauliflower ear from people that are in the scrums. But thankfully, in my long career, I've never been in a scrum. It's not my cup of tea.
So I know in like football, there's something called trash talking.
Yeah.
Is there trash talking in the scrum?
There can be. I had a college teammate from Lithuania who would just yell Russian slurs at the other team and try and scare them that way. But generally, rugby is a hooligan's game played by gentlemen. So we take pride in, our lack of trash talk, although there is plenty of that.
And there's plenty of, see, you guys are playing, it's like tackle football, but you don't have any pads, you don't have a helmet, you don't have, and then you've got this really long oblong football that you can't throw very well, and kicking it is harder. And so it's a very unique sport. It's very physical, as it were.
So Tyler, could you describe for those of us not as familiar with rugby, what position you played and what that meant? Like, what were your kind of maneuvers?
Yeah, so the fly half is the first receiver. They receive the ball from those scrums or from, the forwards. It's usually a scrum half that passes to them, and they command the offense. They set all the plays. They do, a lot of the passing. They do pretty much all of the kicking. And they orchestrate a symphony of players, around them to, try and score a try. And I think that it's the position that requires the most skill on the field. It's the position that requires the most leadership. You have to be loud. You have to always be talking. And you have to be, really coordinated. You have to have a lot of dexterity. You don't necessarily have to be a speed demon, but it helps in some cases. And you don't necessarily have to be strong like an ox, but it helps in some cases.
Well, and I want to ask you about the scrum again, because as I understand it, these guys, these big burly dudes that are manly men, are getting there, and then they're wrapping their arms around each other like it's a great big drunken fest and stuff. And then the referee throws the ball in the middle of the scrum. And how the hell does the ball get out from there to where you want it to, where you can pick it up as a quarterback?
Well, the scrum half is the one that puts the ball in the middle. And which scrum half does it depends on, who the infraction was. If, typically a scrum happens after an infraction, like dropping the ball forwards or something like that. And the scrum half can kind of, it's supposed to go in the middle in between the two groups, but they can kind of spin it in a way where it goes towards their hooker. The hooker is the guy in the middle of the scrum who grabs his leg and he hooks it around the ball and squirts the ball to the back of the scrum, where it's then picked up by either the 8-man or the scrum half and passed to the fly half. And that's when everything kind of starts.
And that's when you've got it as the fly half. And
correct.
Okay.
And so what were you doing when you hurt your first patella tendon?
My first patella tendon, I was running with the ball and I was cutting left and I got tackled from behind. So my knee shot out forward and into my quad and my back went backwards.
Ow.
And you still got up and wanted to play again?
No, I mean, after that, I had really high ambitions for rugby before that. I wanted to play at the professional level. But when that happened, that was the first time I had mania as part of my undiagnosed bipolar. And I went crazy. I quit rugby. I quit a 6-figure job. I moved to Idaho. And I, almost got killed in the Wild West in the Grand Canyon. And, I didn't play again for 5 years after a suicide attempt, when I kind of realized that, rugby had filled a void in my life that I wasn't able to find. So it was a long journey to get back on the rugby field, actually. But I found that, it was the thing that made me feel like I was good at something in the world. And I realized I wanted it to be part of my life again.
So I don't want to sidetrack this, but you mentioned something that just needs to be addressed. Almost got killed in Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
You just just kind of throw that out there and let it float away, and just leave us hanging on that one. So tell us a little bit about what happened there.
So I had ruptured my patellar tendon, and I skipped rehab, and I had this little peg leg that I was kind of bringing around. And I went and lived in Idaho for a while with my friend Hunter, who was he built a canoe and he paddled it down the entire Missouri River from Montana to the Gulf of Mexico. And so I was helping them build this canoe, and then we went and hiked the Grand Canyon, but the North Rim was closed. So we had to hike rim to rim to rim, which is a long trip. And it was like early April, and the weather was pretty crazy, but basically my knee wasn't ready for something like that. It wasn't ready.
I was wondering about that. I was going to ask.
And I'm part of bipolar means you don't always think of the right things to do or be prepared for. You don't really think about the future at all, really. So I didn't really pack nearly enough food. I ran out of food on the first day, and I fainted once, on my way back, and it was a miracle that I made it, all the way, back to the top of the canyon. But I did, and it's part of my book. It's kind of a funny journey.
So
I don't know that I call that funny.
Yeah, really. This is the first time that you experienced the mania side of your bipolar. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. And for about a decade,
did you know what was going on?
No. I mean, when you're manic, you totally have no idea that you're manic, first of all. And also, I was undiagnosed. I didn't really think that I had a mental illness at that point. I was just acting erratically, and I had no explanation for my behavior. I was out of my mind. But it's tough for you to understand what's going on. In your own mind, you're kind of thinking that you're being righteous and that you're finally standing up for yourself and stuff like that. But it can go downhill pretty quickly. And I definitely learned that over the years.
What would you say? Well, and you know what? Why don't we take this break just a little bit early so that we can get into bipolar, what it is, how it affects people, how to get diagnosed from it. And because I think there are a lot of people wandering around who have symptoms of it and don't even know it. So we want to get into that. Will that be all right, Tyler?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All righty, then we will be right back. Are you looking for a powerful way to grow your brand while making a real difference? Well, Positive Talk is the perfect platform to align your message with inspiration, hope, and meaningful conversations. By sponsoring Positive Talk, your brand will reach an engaged audience that values positivity and connection. People who want to support companies that share their values. Take this opportunity to showcase your business in a space that uplifts, inspires, and creates lasting impact. Don't wait. Email me, kevin@kmmedia.pro today to learn how you can partner with us and spread positivity while growing your brand. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. The applause there was for Tommy Tika because he is the gentleman who wrote that song. And I just want to say thank you to that. But we're talking with Tyler Kania, and that's right?
That's right.
Perfect. Yay! I'm one for I don't know how many. But
You're getting better.
but we wanted to talk to you about bipolar, what it is, how it operates. My brother was married twice to the same woman who had bipolar, and some of the weirdest things would happen. She'd be great one day, and then the next day, she'd call the police, and then they would kick him out, and then she'd show up at his house with a 2 days later with a dish of spaghetti, and all she was wearing was her overcoat, and so it was very confusing for him because he had no idea what it was and how it all operated. So, can you shed some light? I'm sure that there are people out there that are watching friends and family exhibit strange behavior and wondering, what could it be? What's going on? Can you kind of, I know you've done a lot of research on it because of your book and the things that you've done. Can you shed some light on it for us?
Yeah. Well, there's two kinds of bipolar. I have bipolar I disorder, which means that I don't just have severe depression at times. I also get, cases of mania. And the mania is something that can be really quite scary. It's when you don't really have a sense of risk in your mind at all. You act irrationally, you think really quickly, you speak really quickly. In some cases, you might think you're about to change the world, like in my own case at one point. And it can offer you incredible levels of productivity in some regard. Like, I started my book when I was manic because I didn't care what people think. I just wanted to put it out there. But when the mania eventually, that inhibition of risk comes back to get you, and you do something stupid. And when you do something really stupid that really screws up your life, maybe you quit your job or get fired or do something to family or friends or lose all your money because you're gambling, that's when the depression kind of sets in. And, I've had cases where I didn't leave bed for several months. I've had cases where I, had suicide ideations and illusions of suicide. I would be walking my dog and just see myself hanging from a tree for many months. And ultimately multiple suicide attempts. And I couldn't really figure out what was wrong with me. I would have these times in my life where life was going so well and I was accomplishing so much, and then it would all shatter in the blink of an eye because of no fault of my own but my illness. But I was unaware that I had an illness, so it took a long time because something like bipolar typically doesn't manifest until your mid-20s. It brings with it, usually you have substance abuse tendencies like I do. Usually you have a lot of trouble with, relationships, with keeping a girlfriend or a wife. And it can be really devastating. But eventually I did get help. Eventually I was institutionalized and I was formally diagnosed with bipolar I, and I was given lithium, which has saved my life, and I was given antipsychotics, which keep me from getting too depressed, but they keep some weight on my belly, so it's a bit of a trade-off. But generally, I'm at this point a fully functioning adult. I'm a little quirky, sure, but I only get mania when something really traumatic happens at this point. And, thankfully that hasn't happened since the summer, at least.
Well, I can tell you, I'm a little quirky. John, are you quirky?
I'm about as quirky as they come. So, yeah, being quirky is cool. It's fine, man.
Yeah.
If you're not quirky, you're boring. So,
That's exactly right. Go ahead.
It certainly has to keep life interesting. What when I think about what you had gone through, and I can only imagine what was going through your mind when you went through that first manic phase. I guess you didn't have anything going through your mind that said what you were doing was wrong, right? You didn't have any checks and balances going on there because you were in that manic phase. What was it like when when you kind of came out of that phase and the realization struck you that, geez, look what I almost did?
Yeah. Um, I felt like I had to run away. I had shattered, all these things in my life. And, that's when I moved to Idaho, and I was just like, I needed comfort from my best friend. Um, and I didn't want to be around my family. My dad had a great successful career, and he looked out for me in getting me into the cybersecurity industry. And I had felt like I had, ruined that opportunity and embarrassed him. And, I had to spend the next several months just on an adventure trying to keep my mind occupied. But it was always in the back of my mind. And it was so tormenting to not know why what happened really happened, and it only got worse from that, to be honest.
And by the way, we're talking with Tyler Kania, and he's got a book out that's entitled "The Maniac with No Knees," and it's a story of basically it's a story of your life. Yes.
Yeah, my adult life for the most part.
So I got to ask you. At one point, you were institutionalized. I assume was that your choice or was that given to you?
So it's a long story. Like early in the year, I went manic and I lost $450,000 in cryptocurrency, and then the next day I lost my job as the head coach of a women's rugby team, who had just won the championship. And that sent me in a hole of depression that was really, really deep. And when I got out of that depression, I got a job as a rugby coach for Memphis inner city youth. And so I went down there, and my fourth day there, I had a panic attack and tried to overdose on medication, and then was hospitalized for 3 days and 3 nights. And when I got out of there, I was really lost in life. And, we looked for, private mental health institutions at first. We didn't really like any of them. They were kind of scary, to be honest. And eventually, I was so suicidal. Like, it was all I thought about. And, at that point I had kind of given in to, okay, whatever we can do to address this, I'll do. So I got some coaching from my psychiatrist and just went into, the Hartford Hospital ER and just told them, look, I want to kill myself. And that's all I think about. And I had to stay in kind of what they called the purple wing, which was just filled with like people with schizophrenia and narcissists just going crazy, and homeless people and addicts. And I had to stay there for several days. I had like a curtain for my bed, but I wasn't allowed to close the curtain because they knew I was suicidal. Although I don't know what I could have done back there, to be honest. And eventually, a spot did open up for me across the street at the Institute of Living, which is one of the oldest mental health hospitals in the country. And it's a beautiful campus. But my time there as an inpatient, I didn't really get to see the campus. They don't really let you outside. But later, when I was an outpatient, I did get that opportunity, which was pretty nice.
But Tyler, I have to say, and I know Kevin agrees with me on this, we are so happy that you did not follow through with any of those tragic thoughts, because the world needs you and needs to hear your story, and people need to learn from you, and you've got so much to offer. And so, please don't ever consider those things again.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we definitely need you. So I'd like to kind of continue your story. Now you had the knee blowout, which was kind of the first big trigger for you, and then now here you have this very rare knee injury, and then you hit the lottery and managed to do the same thing to the other knee. So what happened here?
Yeah. So after I got institutionalized, I started to get my life back together. And so 2023 was a year where, I worked for the largest cybersecurity manufacturer in the world, and I was working hard to get back on the rugby field and finally kind of show everyone what I could really do out there. And so I came into this spring in the best shape of my life. And, my second game of the season, and this is kind of weird. I have a teammate, Frank Lionheart McCooch, who was the guy who tackled me in practice and ruptured my first patellar tendon. Now, 8 years later, he was tackling a guy on Danbury, and I came in to assist on the tackle, and I ruptured my patellar tendon. It's something that only happens once for every 147,000 human years, and it happened to me twice. And not only that, but the same guy was involved.
And would you say his name again?
Yeah, Frank Lionheart McCooch.
Now, is Lionheart just a nickname, or
That's his nickname?
Okay, or was that like a given middle name kind of thing? Not to mention McCooch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now
With a name like McCooch, he had to have a strong nickname to kind of combat that, because kids could be really mean.
but in rugby, because it is such a violent sport, that Lionheart would be the perfect nickname for him, for somebody that was as violent as that sport requires.
Definitely.
Wow. So I have to, what amazes me is you've gone through what could have been and what really can be a crippling kind of an injury. You came back from that. You're going through, extreme bipolar sways and dealing with that, deep depressions, wild manic sessions, and all of this. And yet you keep coming back and staying and getting yourself back into good enough physical shape to come and play rugby again. This, like I said, and I think I said this before, you make me feel like a slacker, man. You are somebody to look up to, and you should never feel bad about yourself. Look at what you are able to accomplish. It's just beyond amazing.
And look what you're doing here. This is a gentleman from Nairobi, Kenya, who's watching us live in Kenya. And so Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to him as well. And in Kenya, of course, football, or soccer as we would call it here, is their number one sport. But rugby is a big deal there too, I'm willing to bet.
Yeah,
I was a soccer player. Did you know that? I was a soccer player in high
didn't
school.
know that.
Yeah, I was on an undefeated team, not to any help of my own self. I was a halfback, and my position was bench.
I was a football player, and my position was nose guard, which is right in the middle. It's like being in the middle of a scrum on every play. I just loved it.
Hey, and Leslie Flowers is watching us, and she's popped in there with a couple of messages. Leslie was on the show recently too. So, hi Leslie, great to see you out there.
And so, were you diagnosed with weak patellas, or was it just a fluke of nature?
No, surgeons don't really have an explanation for it. I have a weird explanation that, who knows? It's kind of like put my tinfoil hat on. But when I was my first year out of college, I was working and living in New York City, and I came back home for a college party. I thought it would be my last ever college party. And my friends at UConn, they roasted two goats. They had goats, they had the whole body, and they roasted these entire goats. And it got late in the night, and
as a Navy guy, I despise that idea. No kidding.
It got late in the night, and my friend Hunter had, he pulled the eyeballs out, and he dared me to eat one, and I ate it.
Oh, wow.
And I got severe food poisoning for a long time, and I lost like 20 pounds in a week, and I had to get hospitalized for like 3 days. And they gave me this medication that my hair started falling out, and I couldn't taste anything. And then years later, I was reading about it, and I read that it had a class action lawsuit for weakening your tendons. So
the medication?
The medication.
Wow.
So I thought that might have a role in my patellar tendons, because honestly, there's no other explanation for something that's so remote of a possibility. You know, you talk to an orthopedic doctor who works for 30 and 40 years. He's lucky to have met one person who has ruptured both patellar tendons, tops. Like,
Oh yes, and Leslie chimes in, and the universe. You didn't get the lesson the first time. Sign the universe. Well, I do have to ask you. At this party you were at with the goats, was there like a lot of liquor involved before you ate the eyeball?
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't one of my best decisions. Definitely not.
Why is it that frets, well, just people in general just do stupid stuff like that? Why do we challenge somebody to eat like disgusting stuff that we wouldn't eat ourselves, right? Like, or hey man, dude, this smells awful, here, take a whiff. I don't what this is gross, eat it. I don't understand that stuff.
It's exactly right. It's like tequila with the worm. There are people who actually will eat the worm that is in a bottle of tequila.
Done it.
So John, you cannot
say.
Yeah, you can't blame anybody for doing.
I didn't say I didn't fall for the same stupidity. I just said, why do we do this?
Because we're a guy at a party and we're tough and we can do anything, and eating an eyeball out of the head of a goat.
Yeah, that's probably
that's why I didn't go to those parties. But anyway, we're talking with Tyler Kania, and he's written the book The Maniac with No Knees, and it really is an interesting story of his life and his battle with bipolarism. He's doing a lot better now. We're so thankful that you did not you were not successful at taking your own life. Oh, and before we go, on our break, I just want to say this real quick. There is, if you feel like you are having manic depressive disorder or bipolar or something like that, and you're not feeling right, there's a number you can call, 988. 988 is the national hotline, and you can get on that number and they can get you the help that you need to get to feeling better. And especially if you're feeling suicidal or any of those things, do not act on that. Call 988. We got a couple of comments, so we're going to share with you, Tyler, when we come back from this break. So stay with us, everybody, and thank you for participating, folks. This is great. This is great fun. And Tyler, you're a hit. Do you know that? That's really cool. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew a girl so smart, so responsible, she must be a keeper.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. John Verico is here. He's a co-host. And Tyler, I got to ask you a question. Were you listening to that commercial?
Yeah.
You're a young, strapping young man. Have you ever texted a girl and asked her on a date and she said, of course?
Sure, yeah.
Oh.
That's never happened.
Well, that's never been my experience. Of course, they didn't. When I was your age, they didn't have texting. That's all.
No, we didn't have text, but I got hung up on lots, though.
Yeah.
and chased off the porch. So,
and this is Leslie again saying, "Who eats an eyeball?" And it must be a guy thing. Women won't do. You see, when we told you that we had no idea where this interview would go, this is exactly because we found out something that was fun that we had no idea about before. So, but I'm glad that you survived all of that. is the medication, are your tendons permanently damaged because of that medication? Do you have any idea? Did the doctor say?
I don't think so, and who knows if that's even true. It's just kind of like when I was looking for an answer and the surgeons weren't giving it to me, the thing that I came up with. But I like to think that my tendons aren't permanently damaged. I came back from one ruptured patellar tendon, and I was just as athletic as ever. And I'm working hard in the weight room and stuff like that to make that the case this time around. So, the fact that I recovered just fine from the last one means that I could do it again.
Well, good luck to you. Where are you in your recovery process today?
Yeah, 8 months post-operation. So just the last month, I've been jogging slowly. I still have a slight limp, but I'm able to run like 3 miles, which is nice. It's liberating. And I'm, working really hard with the weight lifting. Your muscles get atrophied really quickly when you have an injury like that. But I'm back to, squatting and deadlifting over 300 pounds and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that, by late spring, early summer, I'll be just as good as ever at rugby.
Well,
like I said, make us feel like a slacker.
Yeah, John, I tell you, I know that you got up today and ran 4 miles, which you do every day. Or no, you don't.
I do that in my sleep. Yeah, because I only dream about doing it.
So you gotta understand where we're coming from. You can deadlift 300 pounds. You can run 3 miles. You can go through walls with a single bound. You can have X-ray. You must be Superman. That's all I can say.
No, I think that I read a lot about civil rights and what Black folks have gone through in terms of slavery and just kind of not being put in a position to succeed in the world. And I think that, they've shown that, the truly remarkable ones are able to rise above that and they can, beat all those odds, and those odds actually make them better people. And, with bipolar, it's like you can succeed for 2 or 3 years, but you're going to fail eventually when you go manic or something like that. And so I've found that out of necessity, I've had to work really, really hard at being the best version of myself because I know that it could end tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to do this for the long term. So, every chance that I get to shine, I'm going to take it.
Good for you. Good for you, John.
I was just going to say it's an amazing perspective to not give up. The fact that you've had these deep lows, you had the repercussions that come from a manic episode, and you've bounced back each and every time. And it's not just you kind of came back and floated along. You came back and climbed the peak again. You just refuse to stay down, and that drive that is so inspirational. The fact that, okay, I know this isn't going to last, but I'm going to make this the best period that I can. And when the fecal matter hits the air circulation device, because we can't say it the other way, but when that happens and it all goes to hell again,
as long as you don't eat it,
you're going to be in a good position to be able to bounce back from whatever that low is again. And God bless you for that inner strength that keeps you going. You are somebody to admire. And so remember those words. When you're hitting that low spot, remember that there are millions of people out there listening right now, hearing your story and inspired by your strength. And you're going to go, one day you're going to go, oh crap, this really sucks. And then you go, hey, wait a minute. There's a million people out there that care about this and were inspired by me. And I know I can do this again.
Would you care to respond to that, young man?
No, I mean, it's flattering. it makes things feel worth it. I don't think I'm, any more remarkable than the next person, but I'll admit that I try really hard, and you know,
Well,
that's the only thing I've ever been truly good at, I think.
Tyler,
The fact that you try is the most important piece of that.
and all of us have, as far as I'm concerned, every last one of us has got challenges in our life, either how we were raised or the issues that we had or the different things. It's up to the individual to decide to rise above it and to not settle for it, and to stay and to say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make it happen. That is a hugely positive thing, and it's something that I think that you should be. Have you thought about public speaking by chance?
My publisher wants me to do something like that. I did a hell of a job at my brother's wedding, as the best man. So I think I'm a good speechwriter. But we'll see. I do think that, my story can inspire someone to keep going. And, whether that's by them reading my book or, me going out into the world and talking with them, I welcome all of that. And, I think it would be a privilege.
Well, I'll tell you, John is a public speaker, and he talks in front of a lot of people. He's very talented at it. He's very good. And so after the show or down the road, you guys can get
We'll
together
definitely talk. Absolutely.
Because Tyler, and see, we don't always recognize the gifts that we have and how important what we bring to the table is. And you should. Because it's something that can change a lot of lives for the better. Even if it's just helping people understand that they've got something that is not of their own fault, that they can get help with, that can make their life better and the lives more, just as importantly, the lives around them better. Friends, family, acquaintances, employers. Everybody. So I think about it, and okay, I'll get off the soapbox here.
I'll add one thing to that, and that's a very famous quote by Maya Angelou, who said that I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And so far, what I've learned about you, Tyler, is you're the epitome of that.
Appreciate that.
And
I was going to say there, and Leslie jumps in and talks about visualization. Absolutely. So that was actually where I was going with the next question, Leslie. Thank you. And I was basically going to say, so what's next for Tyler Kania?
I've found that I'm pretty good at writing, and it brings me joy. It makes me feel like, I'm doing something and using my whole mind all at once. And, I've toyed with different ideas in terms of writing. I have two things that I'm kind of working on right now. The first is a way to make money off of my writing, because, memoirs about a non-famous person are only going to sell so much. But I found that there might be an opportunity to do something like an extended obituary for people. Something that's, a short story of their life. So you interview like 5 or 6 different family members and friends, and you put something together for their descendants, for their grandchildren to appreciate when they're older. My plan is to partner with funeral homes to get access to these families and kind of offering it as a premium on top of, the obituary that they're going to write, because I think that the world's best stories die with the dead. There's so many great unheard stories that no one's ever really been able to capture because the people are left behind. And, for the most part, I don't know anything about my great grandfather or anything like that, so families do a poor job of preserving memories, I think. So that's the first project. And then the second project, it's funny. my book, the first book, The Maniac with No Knees, that kind of happened by accident. I was just manic, and I was publishing my life story via the Notes app on my iPhone to Instagram. And it wasn't until I was like 30 or 40,000 words in that I realized that I had a story on our hands. In the same token, I've been writing short essays, about how I feel in the world, about suicidal thoughts, stuff like that. And, I've been publishing those to my Instagram, and, I've found about 45 of those that are worth publishing, as well as a couple short stories that I've put together about things like addiction or schizophrenia. And so I think I'm going to put out a second book that's a combination of short essays and short stories, just kind of telling a story of mental illness in different ways than I already did in my book. So I'm excited about both these projects, but it's really early phases on each of them.
Can I tell you a quick story, Tyler, just so that I can reinforce your idea around that? I did something called Family Legacies years ago, and the idea was that I would take my recording device and I would interview somebody who was older, and based upon that their kids wanted a remembrance. One of the things that I did was I interviewed my dad, and my dad subsequently passed away 3 months later. And at his memorial service, I edited it, and we played a 10-minute clip of not only his story, but in his own words, talking about his life, what it meant to him, how he met my mom, how he did the things that he did in life. And there was not a dry eye in the house, because they remembered what he sounded like. And if you want, I would highly suggest, the technology is so simple now. You can do it with your phone to interview somebody, and then download it, and then send it to them, or charge them for it, or you do something like that, because I think you're right on with what you're talking about. And I couldn't agree with you more. You've got a lot of talent, and so use it, and do it for the benefit of mankind.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
And people, there are so many stories that were lost in the generations, and I've seen that happen way too much in my own family as well. And I think there's brilliant ideas. And hey, you're listening to Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald, and I'm John Verico. Our special guest today is Tyler Kania, the author of The Maniac with No Knees, and we'll be right back.
You are all about having a good experience and listening to positive podcasts. Now, when you're online, you can have a positive browsing experience too. Connect to NordVPN server when you go online. NordVPN makes it simple, safe, and secure for you to explore the wide world on the web. Visit NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio. Again, that's NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio to get our 71% discount savings when you visit NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio. You can try it risk-free for 30 days and stay safe while you're online at NordVPN/Positive Talk Radio.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. John Verico is here. We're having a really good time. And by the way, Tyler, you are so special. That is the first comment that I've received on this format from Kenya. So you are being listened to worldwide, young man. And there's a reason why that is. By the way, when you said it was an accident how you wrote your book, it was all inspired. And that's how it all happened. And so it's going to continue that way. Don't you think, John?
Oh, absolutely. You were directed to do that, Tyler. You absolutely were. And I'm so glad that you followed directions.
Yeah.
That's how it felt. That's how it felt, to be honest. It was like, I've tried to write in the past, and sometimes I was okay at it, but a lot of times I would get writer's block. But with my book, it just came so viscerally to me. It came, again, like I was writing it when I was manic. I was uncontrol of my totally unable to control my behavior. And I just started putting it together. And then even when I left the mania, and was a normal person, every single day I just knew exactly what to write. And so it's crazy how it happened, to be honest. I don't know if I'll ever feel that way about any piece of writing that I'll ever do again, but it just felt like it was told to me that I needed to write this thing.
Well, let me explain something to you, young man. Because once that happens, I believe, and by the way, Sir Paul McCartney also believes this, that everything that he's done has been divinely inspired. He wrote yesterday from his sleep. He wrote Let It Be because his mom came to him in a dream. Most everything that he has been inspired, and he doesn't know from where, but it is part of the plan. And your story and what you can do is part of that plan. So when you get inspired, when you get that nudging, act on it. Do it. John?
I just want to say this book, Maniac with No Knees, is much more than the topics that we hit on in this brief conversation that we had with Tyler today. I mean, he not only talks about his journey with being bipolar and about blowing out both of his knees, but he also talks about taking a cryptocurrency startup or building that up, a career in cybersecurity, his I want to read this, and don't tell me about it because I want to read it. I want to learn about your run-ins with the Boston Mafia and all kinds of craziness, unveiling a major tech scandal, all kinds of great stuff that you've been involved with. And you've had such a amazing life that I want to read about and learn more. And so when I get my copy, I want you to sign it for me.
I can do that. Yeah.
You're definitely going to do that.
And Tyler, I got to tell you, there are lots of ways and through lots of avenues that inspirational thoughts and ideas come to you. Sometimes they come to you via the radio or on a podcast that other people are interested in what you're doing. Leslie Flowers is one of those people. And she says, Tyler, take a look at a book called Spoon River Anthology. It's written somewhat like the way you describe your idea. So that would be that Spoon River Anthology. So that would be something to look at and that can help you. And then she also says, my 12th book published this month is about that very subject. It's an anthology and it's about our legacy. Great idea, Tyler.
See, you sold another book there, Tyler, right there. I know Leslie's going to get one.
Yes, indeed. And that's how we all work together for the betterment of everybody, and that we can all support each other to move past the difficulties and the problems that we have. And congratulations. I hope this interview has made you feel good.
Yeah, no, you guys have been so, there's been so many compliments. It really makes me feel great about myself and what I'm doing. And, I really do appreciate this opportunity.
Well, you should feel great about yourself and what you're doing, Tyler. Absolutely. Because you're making a great impact out there, and you are a role model for many, many people. So thank you again. Thanks for taking the time to join us on Positive Talk Radio. So before we run out of time, how do people find you? How do we find your book? And do you want people to follow you on your Instagram? Let's put that out there as well.
Yeah. Instagram is kind of my headquarters in terms of, updates around my book, or in terms of, the first place that I publish my short essays, and pretty much any of my noteworthy writing is first published to Instagram. You can follow me at Tyler_Kania, Kania. And you can go to my website, www.tylerkania.com. My book will be available on January 11th for Kindle, for paperback, and for hardcover. and the audio version of the book should be available in March.
And I just wanted to tell you this. I've been doing this for 20 couple of years. It's not been every day that I have felt all puppy dogs and happy stance of this is the wonderful thing to be doing. But I won't quit. I won't quit because I can't. You can't either. You have shown your ability to get this done. You've got great ideas. Please promise me here that you will never quit.
No, I'm not going to quit. This is part of who I am now. And I'm really excited about every piece of work that I'm going to come out with, in the future.
That's all you can do. The only way that you can fail is if you quit. So never do that. And everything else will work out great. John, would you like to add anything before we go?
I'll just say that one thing to keep in mind, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. And Tyler, you are the epitome of that. What was that little rocker that would you'd knock it down and it come back up at you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's that clown thing.
Yeah, sometimes it was a clown. Mine was King Kong, actually.
A Rocky Sock'em robot.
That's different. That knocked this block off. But anyway, just keep bouncing back is all I can say, Tyler. You've been a wonderful guest, and thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Positive Talk Radio with Kevin McDonald. I'm John Verico as the co-host, and Tyler Kania has been our special guest. And go check him out at Tyler Kania, KANIA.com, and pick up his copy of his book, The Maniac with No Knees.
Can I give a quick shout out?
Yes, please.
Do it.
Hey, shout out to David Cobb and all my friends from Colombia and friends on Instagram watching right now. Really appreciate all your support. Thanks.
And tell them to be careful in those scrums.
And be careful in the scrums, rugby guys.
Thanks again, Tyler, and I hope everybody has a great week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at kmmedia.pro.